Ole Miss adds a high school quarterback commitment and a quarterback from the transfer portal as well.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Ole Miss. I am your host, Brian Smith, in for Stephen Willis. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about quarterbacks. The Rebels have a high school commitment that's come into play and an FCS championship quarterback from the transfer portal. I didn't see that one coming. And we're going to start with him here in just a minute. But we also have a key high school player that's going to be coming for an OB. We're going to talk a little bit more about the game up in Athens. I love digging into these games where they're really critical for you to make a college football playoff run. Ole Miss at Georgia. We're going to talk about the wide receivers in the passing game for the Bulldogs. Where's it going to be now that Carson Beck is gone? And then to finish up some college basketball, the Rebels have one pretty darn good player coming in, another guy that's had some injuries. 2 transfers for the Rebels. But again, to start the show, we're going to talk quarterback. This first guy, I did a podcast earlier on Tuesday. I called Steven and I said, because he'd sent me the text, I'm like, I should just do a podcast on this right now. So if you want the full pod, just 6-7 minutes straight on Trinidad Chambliss, fire away. I'm going to go over it again here now. He's such a good player. He deserves it. First thing to note about him, touchdowns. I don't care what level you play at. If you account for a combined 51 touchdowns, you're pretty good. 26 of them came through the air. 25 of them came on the ground. 2,925 yards through the air, 1,019 yards on the ground. 6'1", depending on who you want to ask, around 200 pounds. But more than anything else, forget whether he's running it, whether he's throwing it, Trinidad Chambliss is an athlete. To be able to put up those kind of numbers, I don't have to watch the film. Didn't have to. You're not going to be able to come up with that many big plays, lead your team deep into the playoffs, and actually win the title at Ferris State. By the way, that's in the state of Michigan, unless you're an athlete. You're a thinker on your feet. Lane Kiffin loves those kind of guys. RPO game, is there a better college coach than Lane Kiffin? With an RPO offense? Perhaps that's a discussion we'll dive into later this month. I think that would be a fun one, actually, and I might just do that. But Lane Kiffin knows that he needs quarterbacks in his room for depth. He knows he needs guys that are also going to push the pile. You got Clarkson that came in from Louisville. Now you add Chambliss. Now you're going to be getting Austin Simmons is probably your starter. You got Maddox, who's got the hand injury. But it is what it is. That's something he'll come back from this summer. You got all these guys competing. If you're going to win even the SEC, let alone the national title, you've got to have a deep quarterback room. Ask Georgia. They, as we'll talk about here in about 10 minutes, are struggling there, and there's some questions. You know, maybe Puglisi or somebody comes up and takes the job. But right now, Gunnar Stockton is the clear number one. I'm not sure if he's the answer. Again, we'll get into that in a few minutes. But the quarterback situation at Ole Miss, some might say it's overrated because they got depth. You got to have a superstar. I'm telling you right now, for those who don't know, Austin Simmons is my dark horse to win the Heisman this year. I'm not saying he's going to win it, but he's going to put up numbers. He's one of the smartest kids I've ever been around, and I've been scouting over 20 years. So I'm very, very consistent with this, that he's going to be a good player for the offense that Kiffin runs. Like, it is just tailor-made for what Austin Simmons does. He can run a little bit and he can throw, but if he goes down, you got not one, not two, but 3 guys that have upper echelon talent. How many other rosters in college football are going to have that this year? I know it's just potential, but I'm just talking about have not one, not two, but 3 guys that were highly acclaimed in some capacity, either high school or they've proven it at college. Again, Chambliss won a title. I know it's FCS, but he still won a title. That's important. Having that pedigree, having that experience, having that leadership come into your locker room in Oxford, I think that's going to pay dividends for the Ole Miss Rebels. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just somebody that thinks that Kiffin's really good quarterback coach and can take anything and make it work. That's not the case, but I know that he has the right fits in his system in Oxford. Somebody's going to pan out. Who makes the post-snap reads? That's always the key to getting over the top. And that's why I like Austin Simmons. He's such a smart kid, but maybe one of the other guys also is able to blossom. Next up, talking about quarterback, I promised you not one quarterback, but two, and I wasn't kidding. I didn't see this coming. Quarterback position is always unique, and sometimes guys kind of come out of the woodwork, but Kiffin recruits a little differently anyway. Westlake High School is one that I know where this young man is from. His name is Reese, 6'1", 205 pounds. Westlake High School is one of the best programs in the country, has been for a very long time. Cade Klubnik, quarterback at Clemson, also came from there, and several other players over the years. University of Texas and also A&M and several other programs have done a lot of work at that program over the years. So they always have Power 4 guys. I don't think that this kid will struggle to adapt because they run a very clean program. I went and saw them play a couple of years ago. They run a very clean program. This is an RPO system. They take a lot of deep shots. They will use motions. It is more advanced than most high school programs. So I love taking a kid at the quarterback position that comes from a Westlake. South Lake Carroll is another one. Ohio State just got a commitment from a receiver from there. That's smart. Kid's going to come in advanced at Ohio State. That's smart. You have to pick your spots for kids that are a little bit more technically sound. Quarterback is top of the board for that. So here are the things that I wrote down when I watched Weiss on film. And you can take whatever you want from this. But again, because he's at Westlake, I give him the benefit of the doubt over and over again. Throwing motion, very natural, over the top. Right-handed quarterback, looks like he throws it pretty much identical every time. You can tell he has been trained not only at the high school, but everybody that's around him has helped in some capacity. So hats off to them because his consistency with his throwing motion, whether it's a deep drop, whether he's rolling right, whether he's on the run and he's just trying to get out of the pocket and not get crushed, he finds a way to square up and do a pretty darn good job almost every time. Secondarily, it's not very difficult. Like it just looks effortless to him. He's not really trying to drive on the ball just to throw a 30-yard pass. He's got a pretty good arm, not a cannon, but a pretty good arm. In terms of who I would compare him to, I know this is ironic, not quite as mobile, but he reminds me a lot of Jackson Dart in his playing style. Really good with play action fakes, throwing the ball down the field, has touch, and he will run the ball, make one cut and go. Jackson was that way too. Dart's bigger at this stage than what this kid was probably, or maybe not. I don't know. Jackson's give or take 200 pounds, but I think he's a little longer, maybe slightly better athlete, but it's similarities. And this kid is a fighter. He had 16 touchdowns, I believe it was, this past year. I can't remember what the number was at rushing, but he's a good player in the run game too. If you can at least make the defensive end in the RPO game think, you've got a chance to be pretty good. Release, again, traditional. It doesn't look funky at the end. It comes out of his hand smooth. He can speed it up when he has to. There were a few plays where he got absolutely tattooed on an interior blitz and still let it go and made big plays down the field. They had a receiver, a smaller guy that just had unbelievable hands, and he would give him a chance on some deep over-the-shoulder passes, and he'd catch them. So he adapts to the players that he's throwing to. His best attribute, again, downfield throwing, no question, touch passes. Weiss is definitely a guy that will throw the football down the field for the Rebels. Area to improve, just middle of the field. Most kids, it's almost the same answer. That is extremely hard. Even NFL coaches will go out of their way to make it clear. Do not throw to the middle of the field. Barring somebody just being in a one-on-one, it's like a cover one and it's an all-out blitz. They don't want the tips and the deflections to end up in interceptions. But he threw a couple that were a little iffy, and at the high school level, he got away with them. The college level, that's probably going to go the other direction. As far as where I saw him ranked, he's a 3-star across all the platforms, which surprised me a little bit. Being a Westlake kid, I thought he might get a little bit more of a benefit of the doubt. But it is what it is. Next, the thing about him that I like, he's not quite filled out. Looking at the long term with Weiss, 220. He's 205 listed. 220 wouldn't be that hard. He's a pretty strong kid now, but there's a difference between Westlake and Oxford and being in Ole Miss's strength program. You get all the nutrition you want, You're growing, your body's getting bigger naturally. He'll be easily 220 pounds. Final thought on him, this is a Lane Kiffin quarterback. Weiss is not a young man that is going to struggle to really, quote unquote, adapt. Ole Miss is going to get a player that's going to be able to play in the SEC. And again, just like I said, with Trinidad Chambliss coming in from Ferris State, you're getting quarterbacks that fit what Lane's going to be doing this year, next year, down the road. You know who he is, but he schemes and adapts to each team he plays as well as who he has behind center. This kid, he can do just about anything that he's shown. And he's like Jackson Dart. So good passer down the middle on the deep shots, taking play action, RPO. He'll run when he needs to. You won't see a whole lot different from him than what you would have seen when Jackson was behind center. I like this kid a lot, and I think he's underrated in terms of recruiting services. When we come back, Dawgs, do they have enough receivers and enough passing game this next year? They lost Carson Beck. They lost some other good receivers. Aaron Smith, some other players have moved on. How are they going to do against the Rebels? That might be Ole Miss's biggest weakness in the secondary, but I think there's going to be some great matchups, and we're going to talk about it next here on Locked On Ole Miss. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel, you can place your first $5 bet, and you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting easy, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props. The app's easy to use. It's not going to take you very much time at all to understand it. So from three-pointers, halftime scores, steals for a player, whatever it may be, FanDuel will make it easy for you. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. How much do you trust Georgia's wide receiver group? Last year, they were a mess. Make a great play, turn around and drop a touchdown. They were infuriating for Georgia fans. With that being stated, as Steven has told me, on air and off, the position that he's curious about, especially here in the spring window, what do the Rebels do to add? He told me safety would probably be his first pick. So Georgia still got some speed. They added some guys, Zachariah Branch, a former five-star from University of Southern California, among others. Can Georgia improve despite losing a future, at least we think, future NFL quarterback in Carson Beck, who transferred from Georgia to the University of Miami? It's a lot of moving parts. When the Dawgs host the Rebels, that game has all kinds of implications for the playoff. But the passing game could be one of, if not the most important thing in the game, because both teams have talented running backs and they have coaches that can scheme it up. It's not that hard to figure that out. It's going to come down to who can complete passes, especially on money downs. Third and long. If you're backed up in your own end, can you get out? Maybe a play action shot that flips the field. There's going to be one or two plays, maybe three or four, between the Dawgs and the Rebels that are passing plays that dictate who wins. I think right now, despite Ole Miss may not having the greatest experience in the back end, I'm still not very comfy with what I've seen and what I've been told by people that cover Georgia daily. I have some friends that cover Georgia very, very closely. Not a single person I know is comfortable with Gunnar Stockton being the quarterback. Not one. I don't get to see practice, and I don't have the contacts they do. I don't even try. That's why I call them. Gunnar Stockton's a good kid, by the way. Great guy. I got to know him during 7-on-7 in high school. But I don't think he's that guy. He showed that his style of play, and that one game he started against Notre Dame in the playoff, by the way. What a way to get introduced to the starting lineup. He's a kid that's a gamer, plays really hard. He made some plays against Texas. Obviously, he played the second half of that game before playing the Irish. But I just don't think he's a big game player. He started off hot against the Irish, like 6 for 6 or 7 for 7. They made a few adjustments, and he fell off a cliff. And it didn't help that his wide receivers also couldn't catch a cold. Now, Arian Smith, although he had a lot of speed, is gone. They're going to lose some other guys, but are they going to be able to have a number one? Well, I got to go back to Zachariah Branch. He can fly. And to be really, really honest with you, I don't know that much about him in terms of why he was banged up. Great kid, plays hard, but he just could not for 2 years stay on the field consistently. Electric when he has the football in his hands. If he plays all 12 for Georgia this year, he will be a nightmare for everybody. but he's my asterisk player. But the other guys, I'm not so sure. Noah Thomas is the kid they got that transferred in from A&M, 6'6", 200 pounds. Nightmare in terms of the red zone. That's a concern. But he doesn't have the same kind of rapport with the quarterbacks at UGA. And again, are they going to be able to get him the ball in Kirby's offense? It's a different deal. I don't know. But he had 8 scores last year. And again, he's 6'6", possible. Overall, he had 39 catches, 574 yards, and 8 scores. But they don't have the same players, and they weren't even that good anyway because the quarterback changed, multiple receivers are gone, and the offensive line stunk. They gave up 25 sacks last year at Georgia. Now that everybody has seen a little bit of film, and by this point, it'll be middle of the season when Ole Miss goes to Athens, there's not going to be anything that anybody doesn't know about the Georgia defense, the offense, the special teams. It's all going to be out there. So Gunnar Stockton's film is going to be everywhere. You're not going to be able to hide anything. I think they're going to struggle to throw the ball a little bit. I don't think they're going to be able to block Suntarian Perkins. I think he'll be the best player on the field, which he will be almost every game that he's in. I think he's one of the top 10 players in America. But I also think that they're going to have some key issues on third downs. I'm going to come back to that. Third down plays in the passing game are everything. If you look at some of the stats last year for Georgia, you're like, Brian, they finished like top 20 in passing and all that. Here's why. Carson Beck threw it 513 times. Kirby Smart offense, 513 times? He had to. Do you really think Kirby wanted to throw it that many times? No, he absolutely did not. But their running game stunk too, even though they got multiple guys that could probably at least make a roster at some point in the National Football League. Surely they'll get better up front. I haven't heard good things about the O-line in general, but somebody's going to come in there and play. We'll figure that out once we see the season. And again, because Ole Miss travels to Athens middle of the season, you'll have a better idea on it. But if their running game is even remotely what it was last year, which is like 120 yards a game, something like that, they were pedestrian. Georgia's not going to beat Ole Miss. They're going to lose a lot of games. That's got to go up. Kirby knows that, and I'm sure that's first priority for him. It'll go up some, but they still don't have a pure RPO quarterback. Gunnar is a guy that can run in a line. He's not going to make a lot of guys miss. He's physical, which may not be good for him. And I just don't think that's going to do enough to help them beat the quote-unquote upper echelon teams in the SEC, which Ole Miss will be this season. Alabama, LSU, any teams that can score some points, maybe even Florida. Florida's kind of a wild card in the season this upcoming year. These teams have a chance to just outscore Georgia because I don't think they'll be good on third down. I don't trust Gunnar Stockton. I don't know if they've got a rapport with the receivers. And again, the big wild card, the big asterisk, because I got to see it now. Zachariah Branch, speed out the yin-yang. He is one of the twitchiest kids I've ever had a chance to scout. Electric. Is he going to stay healthy? He was banged up quite a bit at USC. When he is healthy, though, you're not going to cover him one-on-one. There's not a guy in college football that's not going to cover. It's going to cover. No way. If he can stay healthy, though, they still got to get him the ball. But right now, the way I see it, I think Ole Miss is going to beat Georgia. I've said that before. I'm going to say it again. And one of the key reasons why the quarterback position, a little iffy. Gunnar Stockton, we'll see if he improves. But the receiver room, while they did add Noah Thomas, who should be their most consistent receiver, he's proven. I'll give him that. That was an excellent addition to their roster in Athens. That's still just one guy. Money downs, I'm rolling coverage to him. I'll raise my hand and just say, hey, Noah's not beating us right here. If somebody else beats us on this play, thumbs up to you. But you have to find a way to beat us with somebody else, 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s. And if you get beaten double coverage, then that's on you anyway. That can't happen. So I know Ole Miss has some question marks in the secondary. We'll find out how good they are. By week 3, week 4, we'll probably know if they have the goods to be a true SEC title contender, because the offense is going to be electric. The defense still has a ton of talent. Again, I'm telling you, Suntarian Perkins is the top 10 player in America. He's going to be lights out. They're going to give these teams a lot of problems. So I think that Ole Miss is going to win this game, and this is the second reason. I'm going to finish up with part 3 on Friday on this, And I think Ole Miss, again, they have the advantage, but we're going to talk about something a little bit outside the box. When we come back, we're going to talk a little basketball. The Rebels, they have some really good players that are going to be coming in. That is next here on Locked On Ole Miss. To finish up here on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, we got a couple basketball transfers to discuss. And the Rebels, well, they're getting two guys that are pretty intriguing. One of them actually played at Wisconsin. And to help me kind of figure out what's going on with that guy, Ryan Herrings, the always optimistic Badger, based on the departures from the football program over there. I don't know if he should be all that optimistic, but we're talking basketball today. And he's offered to help out a little bit. AJ Storr, is that how you pronounce it? Am I saying that correctly?
Yep, AJ Storr.
He was at St. John's, Wisconsin, then Kansas, and now he's headed to Ole Miss. So this is the most traveled guy I know. But a couple of years ago for the Badgers, 16 points a game, man. You can put the ball in the bucket if you put 16 points a game on the board in the Big Ten. Give me the backdrop in the scouting report.
Yeah, Storr's an interesting kid. Came over to Wisconsin from St. John's, averaged 16.8 points per game for the Badgers. I'll give you the pluses. Like, it's a plus athlete. He is a legit wing size. He's 6'7", 210. He looks like a guy who came out of a factory to play small forward in college basketball. He can jump. He can run like a gazelle. He's great in transition. He can dunk on people. He can get to the paint. He can finish with strength. Like, the physical tools have never been the issue with AJ Storr. Averaged 4 rebounds a game for the Badgers, again, 16.8 per game. And that was 16.8, and the defenses were geared to stop him. He was option number 1, high usage rate, and still scored 16, 17 a game. He's a legit scorer. When he's locked in, it's 3 level. He can shoot from 3, a little inefficiently. He's not a sniper, but he can hit from 3. But coming downhill off the pick and roll, when he can get to his strong hand, he can be a bit of a freight train. So that's the positive with him. Plus athlete, really good in transition. And as you said, you don't accident your way into 17 a game in the Big Ten.
No. What would you say his biggest deficiency is outside of the offense? Like, defensively, is he a guy that you want to put on a score? Is he more of a sit back and rebound guy? You got to put him on somebody weak. What's his situation there?
Yeah, now we're getting into some of the issues with AJ Storr. He came into the program, and I had him on the show. I talked to him and I said, what are you like defensively? What's the game plan? He said, I love it. I get after it. And then it just wasn't the case in Madison. They actually ended up hiding him a lot, which is really frustrating as a fan because he is that 6'7" prototype wing defender. He should
be. Yeah.
He should be the point of attack guy. And he has every athletic tool you could ever want for it. But you go under the hood, you look in the advanced metrics, he was 43rd percentile defensively in points per possession for Kansas last year. So a below average defender with plus wingspan, plus athleticism, plus size. He just gets caught ball watching, so he struggles as an off-ball defender. And then there's an old saying in basketball, you're going to find your rest somewhere. Most players find their rest somewhere, and he tends to find it defensively. So that has been an issue for him, unfortunately.
What would you say his upside is at a 1-year kind of deal? I mean, Ole Miss got a pretty good basketball program. Mm-hmm. Can he be – would it be best to say – obviously, he's not going to be a defensive stopper. I think we've established that. But would you say it's best to put him in a situation of, okay, if he's your number 2, you guys are set for bear? Like, because he should average 10. If he's locked in mentally, and this will be his last year of college, well, I would assume he's going to average double digits. Should he be the number 2 scorer on an elite team? Is that a fair assessment? Like, if he was at Auburn or Ford or somebody this past year, he wouldn't have been a number 1, but he still would have been a key guy. Like, where would you see him at?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I don't know fully what happened at Kansas, full disclosure. Like, when he went to Kansas last year, and if you remember 2 years ago, it's possible Ole Miss is getting a major buy low here. Because 2 years ago, coming out of Wisconsin, this is one of the top portal guys in the class. He got 100%. A huge deal to go to Kansas. And Kansas doesn't – we all know what Kansas basketball is. They're not scraping the bottom of the barrel. So
they get top 10 recruiting classes yearly. Yeah, I get it.
They saw him and said, this is one of the top guys. We're going after him. So it's possible Ole Miss is getting a major buy low here. It just didn't work at Kansas. You and I both know sometimes schemes just don't fit. Coaching staffs just don't mesh, whatever it is. So there's a chance here. If you're Ole Miss, you're getting a high-level scorer that could be your number 2 offensive guy. He could really inject life into an offense if you have the right pieces around him. He is not a great decision maker. He's not a guy that you're going to ask to set other people up. But if you have a solid point guard or some passing around him, and then a couple defensive guys, like you have to have some defensive pieces around him, but he can score 16, 17 a game when he's locked in. And maybe last year in college, his last chance to put that NBA draft film up there, maybe you get the best version of AJ Storr. And that version's pretty darn good offensively. So this is the type of piece that can help push you over the edge offensively.
Man, I appreciate the knowledge. I don't know if Ole Miss fans realize just how close they are. Like in basketball, I mean, I grew up in Indiana. Like you get one guy that the light goes on with somebody like his athleticism. I mean, he's an NBA physical talent. Now, I'm not saying that I know the kicks. I sure as heck don't. But if you, Chris Beard and those guys, they've got a good staff. They've got a good program going. If he has the light come on, I'm going to talk about another kid after you come off here in a second. Like they got another guy they just picked up. They've got a chance to be another really good team. The SEC all of a sudden, by the way, in basketball. I don't know what to do because when I was a kid, like it was Kentucky, maybe LSU or four, and that was it. The entire league is good now. So you got to have guys like Storr coming in or you're going to get your butt kicked. But it's wild. Ryan, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it, brother. I'll get with you here soon, but thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Good luck.
All right, man. Take care. To finish up here on Locked On Ole Miss, the Rebels got a second player in the portal, and this is one of those unique scenarios. Another guy that's been banged up. He only played in a couple games this past year, and he comes over from Louisville, Karan Johnson. Now, he was at Washington at one point for a couple years. Sophomore year, 11 points per game, but got an injury, only played 2, redshirted. Now he comes to Ole Miss. I just want to bring this up in general. Basketball, and I was a guy who grew up in Indiana, it is a rhythm sport, especially if you're a shooter. That's about all I could do. I could run and I could shoot. If you have injuries, how does that bother you mentally? When do you come back from it? Are you able to put that behind you? I don't even know what the injury was. Didn't look into it. But any little thing could screw up a shooter's rhythm and it can get in their head. I think he averaged 11 points per game. I mean, he could obviously score. But at the same time, how much does that change now that he's been banged up? Ole Miss knows what they're doing. They've got a really good staff. But when you go to the portal, you just don't know for sure. And this will be his third school in a total of 3 years. So we'll see what happens. Best of luck to Johnson. But that is why the portal is so wild, and I enjoy covering it so much. Thank you once again for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in. I appreciate Stephen Willis giving me the opportunity to host this podcast. It's a lot of fun for me, and I will be back again on Friday. We're going to talk more Georgia, more recruiting. Lord only knows we're going to talk more portal. That is all but a lock. Thank you once again. We will see you again soon. Take care.